You steal my identity. I steal your cars. I just recently found some of the Revenge subs around here and spent a chunk of my weekend reading the amazing posts on r/nuclear revenge. Last night, my husband and I were visiting with our neighbor on our patio, and I told them about one of the posts. Our neighbor then shared one of his non-nuclear revenge stories and gave me permission to retell it here. Names have been changed to protect the guilty. Our 40-something neighbor, Frank Smith, has a brother 3 years older named Fred, with the two similar in looks and build. Apparently these boys were not obedient children and got into trouble a lot. Frank mostly straightened up by the time he reached 21, but Fred kept at it with drinking, drugs, multiple DUIs, etc. While the two were still living at home with their parents in their early 20s, Frank happened to leave his wallet on the kitchen counter one night after coming home from a night out. Next morning, he discovered his ID wasn't in his wallet. Thinking he must have left it in a bar the night before, he tried locating it, but with no luck. Not thinking much about it, he just got a new ID. Fast forward a year or so, and Frank gets a phone call. It's his uncle whose son works at the county jail. Fred had been arrested, and their cousin happened to see him when he was getting booked under the name Frank Smith. Turns out Fred had given the police Frank's name and ID and was going to jail under Frank's identity. Needless to say, Frank was pissed. He went down to the jail to prove he was Frank, and Fred was a liar. Fred was ultimately sentenced to serve time and stayed put. During the time that Fred was in jail, Frank received a letter in the mail from the state BMV. It said that his two vehicles, an Audi sedan and a VW Bug, were due free checks, emission checks. Frank was confused because he only owned a truck. He went to the BMV and discovered that these two vehicles were indeed titled in his name. That's when Frank realized that his brother, who had lost the right to own a vehicle due to excessive DUIs, used his identity to register these cars. Of a revenge. Frank asked how much it cost to get duplicates of the titles, $8 each. So he paid $16 and walked away with title documents for the two cars. He knew enough of his brother's friends to start calling around in search of the cars. Lo and behold, he located them both at different locations. Frank is a knowledgeable mechanic and could start these cars without keys, but he knocked on the door of each house where the cars were. He explained to each person that he owned the title to the car, showing them the document, and gave them the opportunity to remove their belongings from the vehicle before he took it. They understood and didn't push back, taking their things out of the car and handing him the keys. Frank proceeded to sell both cars and pocket around $3,000 for all his troubles. The good news is that after his stint in jail, Fred got sober, became someone Frank could actually be friends with.
Got $40K for accidentally confiding a secret to a gossiping coworker. I worked at a chain salon in the U.S. for minimum wage plus tips. We got paid on a sliding scale. The more you added services, the more your hourly pay. Then, for back to school, we started offering $10 haircuts. It's dumb to offer a big discount on back to school because that's when everyone needs a haircut, but whatever. Except, to advertise this sale, we had to stand on a rickety step stool and hang a 10-foot-long, 3-foot-wide banner off the roof of our store. The step stool alone made it a dangerous task, but on top of it, the sidewalk was uneven. Our manager insisted we do twice a day, open and close, in case someone steals the banner, because certainly someone would want to steal a banner with our logo that says $10 haircuts. It was annoying, but I was looking forward to my next paycheck. I had a high service dollar per hour, which should have meant a bigger hourly pay and paycheck, except it didn't. That $7 haircut discount. It was coming out of our final service dollar calculations, and we ended up making significantly less than usual. I worked there for years, and this was the smallest back-to-school paycheck I'd ever seen. I went in the next day and was pissed. That morning, a coworker who was a total brown nose and gossip and I were outside setting up the banner. It was my turn to stand on the rickety step stool, and I said I was glad this will be the last time I ever do this. I was fully prepared to make a joke about how I was going to fall and crack my head open, when the petty revenge idea came into my mind, and I swiftly executed it. When she asked why, I told her not to tell anyone, but I'd accepted a job at another salon with a set schedule, higher commission and $5 more an hour. I said I'd planned on putting in my 2 weeks, but they needed me to start sooner, so I was going to work the weekend and not come back. This would leave us understaffed for the back-to-school rush. After reiterating she could not tell anyone, especially not our boss, she agreed. I left early that day, and on my next shift, my boss pulled me into her office. She said she'd heard a rumor that I was leaving to work at a different salon. I told her I had a much better offer elsewhere, but if she could match that, I would love to stay. She had to put a call into her district leader about the raise, but said I could work with a set schedule starting the following week. I was working until 9 p.m. some days and at 9 a.m. the next. The unpredictable schedule made finding childcare a pain in the ass. I was consistently ranked number 2 in sales for our store in the district. So the deal approved the raise, and I stayed there another 5 years, which means I got an additional $39,000 in pay for accidentally telling the salon gossip my secret. I also got 20% commission on $500 to $1,000 a week in product sales. The ProRevenge. I also started printing out my service sales slip from the day before at the beginning of every shift, so that when payroll registered the paychecks to include coupons, I could pull up my record and dispute it. According to payroll, there was nothing they could do about it. I stayed another 5 years, raising the issue sporadically until they brought back the $10 haircut sale and I quit. A few months after I left, I was made aware that a different employee in another state filed a class action lawsuit, and I got a letter asking if I wanted to be a part of it. I accepted, and the lawyer loved receiving 5 years' worth of documentation, emails from corporate and payroll, etc. They had to go back through all of my paychecks and compensate me for the difference. This included adding the free haircuts reward program and discounted haircuts as their whole amount, increasing the service dollar. 19 cents an hour here and 30 cents an hour there added up. And despite the fact that the settlement was split with a lot of people, I got $10K from that in addition to my adjusted pay, which was around half the settlement amount. Edited to remove the link from the article about the settlement.
Check out my other marvelous videos.